Claire stepped into the Tesla showroom, her eyes scanning the sleek, polished vehicles under bright showroom lights. Her heart raced with equal parts anticipation and apprehension. She wasn't there to admire the cars, she had questions, serious ones about safety. Clutching a small notebook, she approached the nearest staff member, a young man in a crisp uniform. "Excuse me," Claire began, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "I have some concerns about the safety of the latest model. Could you explain the safeguards in place for the automated braking system?" The man gave her a once-over, his lips curling into a smirk. "Ma'am, these cars are the safest on the market. Are you sure you're looking to buy? They don't exactly come cheap." The implication stung, but Claire refused to let it show. "I'm not here to discuss affordability. I'm asking about the technical specifications, specifically the braking sensors." The man exchanged a glance with another employee nearby, who chuckled. "We don't usually get questions like that," the second man said, stepping closer. "Maybe stick to asking about the color options or financing plans." Laughter rippled through the small group of employees. Claire felt her cheeks flush. She opened her notebook, revealing detailed sketches and notes. "These diagrams show a potential flaw in the sensor system. If the vehicle is traveling at high speeds and—" "Ma'am," the first man interrupted, his tone now patronizing. "With all due respect, you're not an engineer. We get it, you've read some blogs. But trust me, Tesla's engineers are the best in the world." Claire's grip on the notebook tightened. "I am an engineer. I worked on these systems." The room fell silent for a moment, but then the second man burst out laughing. "Sure you did," he said sarcastically. "Look, maybe you should take this up with corporate. We just sell the cars here." Claire's voice rose. "That's exactly the problem. You don't take this seriously. Do you know how many lives are at risk if this flaw isn't addressed?" A hush fell over the showroom as a few customers turned to watch the exchange. The first man leaned closer, his voice dropping to a condescending whisper. "Ma'am, I think you're causing a scene. Maybe it's time you leave." The humiliation hit Claire like a wave, but she stood her ground. "I'm not leaving until someone listens to me." A manager approached, his polished demeanor doing little to mask the irritation in his voice. "Is there a problem here?" "She's disrupting the showroom," one of the employees said quickly. "Claiming she's an engineer and all." The manager turned to Claire with a forced smile. "Ma'am, we value all our customers, but this isn't the place for technical debates. If you have concerns, I suggest you file a formal complaint online." Claire stared at him, her voice trembling. "I tried that. I've emailed, called, and even sent a report. No one has responded." The manager's smile faltered. "I'm sorry, but we can't help you here." Claire looked around, her humiliation now compounded by the pitying or dismissive stares of the other customers. She felt small, powerless, and utterly defeated. Gathering her notebook, she turned on her heel and walked out, her head held high despite the tears threatening to spill. Outside the showroom, she leaned against a lamppost, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The sting of their words echoed in her mind, but deep down, she knew she couldn't give up. This wasn't just about her pride, it was about lives. As Claire composed herself, a thought struck her. If the showroom staff wouldn't listen, and corporate ignored her, perhaps it was time to take her concerns public. Pulling out her phone, she snapped a photo of her notebook and began typing a post. "Today, I was humiliated at a Tesla showroom for asking critical safety questions. But I won't stay silent. Here's what they don't want you to know." She hesitated for a moment, then hit post. Little did she know, the ripples of that moment would soon turn into a tidal wave that would shake Tesla, and Elon Musk, himself. Claire sat at her modest desk, illuminated by the soft glow of her computer screen. Stacks of technical documents and printouts surrounded her, remnants of her time as an engineer at Tesla. The memories were bittersweet. She had once been proud to work for the company that was revolutionizing transportation, but that pride had soured when she uncovered the flaw. It had started as a routine analysis. Claire had been tasked with reviewing the automated braking system for Tesla's latest model, a sleek, high-performance vehicle marketed as the pinnacle of safety. The system was designed to detect obstacles and stop the car within milliseconds, but something didn't add up. During her simulations, the system failed under certain conditions, specifically, when traveling at high speeds on wet surfaces. It wasn't a minor glitch, it was a life-threatening oversight. She reported her findings to her supervisor, detailing the issue in a thorough report. The response was swift but disappointing. "It's not a priority right now," her supervisor had said, brushing off her concerns. "We'll address it in the next update." Claire wasn't convinced. The flaw wasn't something that could wait for a future update. It posed an immediate danger to drivers and passengers. When she pushed back, she was met with resistance. The company's focus was on meeting production deadlines and rolling out new features, not revisiting existing systems. The phrase, acceptable risk, was thrown around, a term Claire had come to despise. Determined to make her voice heard, Claire escalated the issue to higher management. She presented her findings in meetings, only to be met with vague reassurances and veiled warnings about her tone and team spirit. It became clear that the company was more concerned with protecting its image than addressing the problem. The final straw came when she received an email subtly suggesting that her persistence was jeopardizing her future at Tesla. Claire resigned a week later, her heart heavy with disappointment and frustration. But she couldn't walk away from the issue entirely. Lives were at stake, and she felt a moral obligation to act. Over the following months, she conducted her own independent research, using publicly available data and her technical expertise to build a comprehensive case against the flawed system. Her decision to speak out wasn't an easy one. Whistleblowing came with risks, legal, financial, and personal. She knew Tesla had the resources to bury her if they chose to. But she also knew that staying silent wasn't an option. She began reaching out to safety advocacy groups and journalists, hoping to find someone who would amplify her message. Responses were slow at first, but a few reporters showed interest, requesting more details. Then came the incident at the Tesla showroom. It was meant to be a small step, a chance to gauge how the company's frontline employees handled safety concerns. Instead, it turned into a public humiliation. But that humiliation had reignited her determination. Claire turned back to her computer, her mind racing. The post she had shared about her experience at the showroom was gaining traction online. Comments and shares poured in, with many expressing outrage at the way she had been treated. Others, however, were skeptical, accusing her of seeking attention or spreading misinformation. The polarization didn't surprise her. Tesla had a fiercely loyal fanbase, and challenging the company's image was bound to provoke backlash. She scrolled through the comments, pausing when one caught her eye. "If what you're saying is true, where's the proof?" It was a fair question, and Claire knew she needed to provide answers. She opened a file on her computer labeled Evidence, a meticulously organized collection of data, diagrams, and test results. Her next move was clear. She began drafting a detailed document outlining the flaw, complete with charts and technical explanations. Her goal wasn't to attack Tesla as a company but to highlight a problem that needed fixing. She included a statement at the end, addressing Tesla's leadership directly. "This isn't about blame, it's about responsibility. Lives depend on your response." As the hours passed, Claire felt a sense of clarity and purpose. She was no longer just an engineer or a former employee, she was an advocate for safety and accountability. Her journey had been marked by setbacks and challenges, but she had no intention of giving up. When the document was ready, she sent it to the journalists who had expressed interest, along with a note explaining her motivations. She also shared it on social media, adding, "I'm not here to bring Tesla down. I'm here to ensure they live up to their promise of innovation and safety." That night, as she watched the engagement on her posts grow, Claire felt a glimmer of hope. She didn't know what the next day would bring, but for the first time in months, she felt like she was making progress. What she didn't realize was that her story was about to catch the attention of someone who could change everything. The Tesla showroom was bustling with activity when the doors suddenly opened, and a wave of murmurs spread through the space. Elon Musk, in his characteristic understated manner, walked in unannounced. The showroom staff froze, their usual confidence replaced by a mix of awe and panic. Customers stopped mid-conversation, whispering to one another and reaching for their phones to capture the unexpected sight. Claire, standing near the entrance, was momentarily stunned. She hadn't expected her post to reach this far, let alone draw Musk himself to the very showroom where she had been humiliated. Gathering her composure, she decided this was the moment to make her case, directly to the man who had the power to change everything. Elon's sharp eyes scanned the room, taking in the uneasy faces of his employees and the curious stares of the customers. He approached the manager, who was visibly flustered, and asked in a calm but firm tone, "Where's the woman who raised concerns about our safety systems?" The manager hesitated, unsure how to respond. Claire stepped forward, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "That would be me." Elon turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "I read your post," he said simply. "It raised some serious points. I'd like to hear them directly from you." For a moment, the room was silent. The staff exchanged nervous glances, their earlier arrogance replaced by unease. Claire took a deep breath and nodded. "Thank you for giving me the chance." She launched into an explanation of the flaw she had discovered, her words measured and precise. She described the conditions under which the braking system failed and provided examples from her independent tests. Elon listened intently, occasionally nodding or asking a clarifying question. His demeanor was professional, but there was an intensity in his gaze that hinted at the wheels turning in his mind. As Claire spoke, she noticed a shift in the room's atmosphere. The customers who had initially seemed indifferent were now listening closely, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. Even the staff, who had dismissed her earlier, appeared to be reconsidering their stance. When she finished, Elon remained silent for a moment, as if weighing her words. Then he spoke. "This is significant. If what you're saying is accurate, it needs to be addressed immediately." The acknowledgement sent a wave of relief through Claire, but it was short-lived. The senior official from Tesla's regional office, who had been quietly observing the interaction, stepped forward. "Mr. Musk, with all due respect, we've thoroughly tested the system. There's no evidence to support these claims." Claire's frustration flared. "Of course you'd say that. It's easier to dismiss the issue than to admit a mistake." The official bristled, but Elon raised a hand to silence him. "I didn't come here to dismiss anything," he said firmly. Turning back to Claire, he added, "Do you have the data with you?" Claire nodded and handed him a USB drive. "Everything you need is on this. I also have hard copies if you prefer." Elon accepted the drive without hesitation. "I'll have my team review this immediately. If there's any validity to your findings, we'll take action." The official tried to interject, but Elon cut him off. "This isn't about protecting egos or reputations. It's about safety. If there's a flaw, we fix it." The decisiveness in his tone left no room for argument. Claire felt a surge of respect for him, despite her lingering skepticism. For the first time since she had started this journey, she felt like someone was taking her seriously. Elon turned back to her, his expression softening slightly. "I appreciate your persistence, even if it's caused some discomfort for my team. The truth is, we need people like you, people who care enough to speak up." Claire was taken aback by the unexpected praise. "I just want to make sure no one gets hurt because of something we could have prevented." He nodded. "And that's exactly why we'll follow up on this. But I need your patience while we investigate." Claire understood the importance of thoroughness, but she also knew how easy it was for promises to be forgotten once the spotlight faded. "I'll hold you to that," she said, her voice firm but respectful. Elon smiled faintly, an acknowledgement of her resolve. "Fair enough." As he prepared to leave, the tension in the room began to dissipate. The staff, who had been on edge throughout the exchange, seemed to relax slightly. But Claire noticed a new dynamic, a sense of accountability that hadn't been there before. It was as if Elon's presence had forced them to confront the consequences of their behavior. Before he exited, Elon paused and turned to the gathered crowd. Innovation isn't just about making the best products, it's about making the safest ones. If we ever lose sight of that, we've failed. His words hung in the air, resonating with everyone in the room. Claire watched as he walked out, his team following closely behind. For the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope, not just for her cause, but for the possibility of real change. Claire sat at her desk, nervously tapping her pen against the surface. The USB drive she had handed to Elon Musk contained months of meticulous research, but there was no guarantee it would lead to action. She kept refreshing her inbox, waiting for a response, as the weight of uncertainty pressed down on her. A few days later, the email finally came. It was from one of Elon's senior engineers, requesting a meeting to discuss her findings in detail. The tone was formal but indicated a level of seriousness she hadn't encountered before. Claire agreed, her emotions a mix of relief and apprehension. This could be the moment she had been fighting for, or it could be another dead end. The meeting took place over a video call, with Elon himself joining alongside his technical team. Claire presented her data, walking them through the simulations and the scenarios where the flaw became evident. The team asked precise questions, their skepticism gradually giving way to intrigue as she answered each one with clarity and confidence. Elon remained silent for most of the call, but his focused expression revealed that he was absorbing every detail. When she finished, one of the engineers leaned back in his chair, nodding slowly. "Your findings are compelling," he admitted. "If this issue exists at scale, it's a significant problem." Elon broke his silence. "How soon can we test this ourselves?" The team exchanged glances before one of them replied. "We can run simulations immediately, but real-world tests will take longer." "Do both," Elon instructed. "I want this resolved as quickly as possible." Claire felt a flicker of hope, but she knew how easily things could get derailed. "I've seen these processes stall before," she said cautiously. "What guarantees do I have that this won't be swept under the rug?" Elon's gaze locked onto hers. "Because I'm making it my priority. And if your findings hold up, I'll make sure it's addressed publicly." His words carried weight, but Claire wasn't ready to let her guard down just yet. Public acknowledgement is important, but so is ensuring this never happens again. What about accountability within the company? This flaw didn't occur in isolation, it's a symptom of a larger issue. Elon nodded thoughtfully. "You're right. We've grown rapidly, and sometimes things slip through the cracks. It's not an excuse, but it's something we need to fix. I'll personally oversee a review of our processes to ensure this doesn't happen again." It was a start, but Claire pressed on. "And what about the people who dismissed this issue when I first brought it up? The culture that allowed this to happen needs to change." The tension in the virtual room was palpable, but Elon didn't flinch. "Accountability starts at the top. I'll address it." Claire respected his willingness to take responsibility, but her skepticism lingered. She had seen too many empty promises in the corporate world to believe change would come easily. Still, this felt different. Elon's direct involvement and the seriousness of the engineering team gave her reason to hope. As the meeting ended, Elon addressed her directly. "You've done something most people wouldn't have the courage to do. I can't promise perfection, but I can promise that we'll take this seriously." Claire nodded, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside her. "That's all I've ever wanted." Over the next few weeks, Tesla's internal review began in earnest. Engineers replicated Claire's findings, confirming the flaw she had identified. The evidence was irrefutable. Elon called a press conference to address the issue, a move that surprised both supporters and critics of the company. Standing in front of a sea of cameras, he acknowledged the problem and outlined the steps Tesla would take to fix it. Claire watched the broadcast from her small apartment, her emotions a mix of vindication and disbelief. Hearing Elon publicly admit to the flaw and take responsibility was a rare moment of corporate transparency. But the story didn't end there. As the news spread, so did the backlash. Critics accused Tesla of negligence, while loyalists defended the company's swift response. Claire found herself thrust into the spotlight, with journalists reaching out for interviews and advocacy groups hailing her as a hero. She used the platform to push for broader change, advocating for stricter safety regulations across the industry. Her focus wasn't just on Tesla but on creating a culture of accountability in tech as a whole. She became a prominent voice in the conversation, her journey inspiring others to speak out against injustices they had faced. Despite the progress, Claire knew the fight wasn't over. Change was rarely straightforward, and there would always be resistance. But for the first time, she felt like she had made a real impact. She had turned her humiliation into a catalyst for transformation, proving that even the most powerful companies could be held accountable when someone had the courage to stand up. The news of Tesla's public acknowledgement of the safety flaw sent shockwaves through the industry. While many praised the company's transparency, others saw it as a sign of deeper issues within the organization. For Claire, the real challenge had just begun. Public attention brought both support and scrutiny, and she quickly realized that her fight for accountability was far from over. Tesla's internal investigation continued, revealing more than just the initial flaw. Engineers uncovered lapses in quality control, inadequate testing procedures, and a culture that prioritized innovation over safety. These revelations added fuel to the fire, and the media frenzy intensified. Critics demanded answers, shareholders raised concerns, and customers questioned their trust in the brand. Elon Musk remained at the center of it all, balancing the fine line between damage control and genuine reform. He publicly pledged to overhaul Tesla's processes, including implementing more rigorous safety protocols and creating an independent oversight committee. "We can't innovate at the expense of safety," he declared in another press conference. This has been a wake-up call. Claire watched these developments closely, both impressed and cautious. While Elon's actions were commendable, she knew that promises made under public pressure could easily fade once the spotlight shifted. She decided to use her newfound platform to ensure that the momentum for change didn't waver. She began collaborating with safety advocacy groups, sharing her insights and helping to develop recommendations for industry-wide reforms. Her technical expertise and personal story gave her a unique perspective, and her voice carried weight in a space often dominated by corporate interests. Claire became a sought-after speaker at conferences and panels, where she emphasized the importance of ethics and accountability in tech. But her growing influence also made her a target. Online trolls attacked her credibility, accusing her of exaggerating the issue for personal gain. Some former colleagues from Tesla, unwilling to confront their own role in the debacle, spread rumors to discredit her. The backlash was relentless, but Claire refused to let it deter her. She leaned on her supporters and reminded herself of the lives that could be saved by her efforts. Amidst the chaos, Claire received an unexpected invitation from Elon Musk. He wanted to meet privately to discuss the broader implications of her findings and explore potential collaborations. The request surprised her, but she agreed, recognizing the opportunity to influence change from within. When they met, Elon was candid about the challenges Tesla faced. "We've made mistakes," he admitted. "Big ones. But I want to fix them, and I believe you can help." Claire was skeptical. "It's easy to say that now, with the world watching. What happens when the attention fades? Will these changes stick?" Elon's expression hardened with determination. "They will if the right people are involved. That's why I want you to be part of this, not just as a critic but as a collaborator." The proposal was unexpected, and Claire hesitated. Working with Tesla again, after everything she had been through, felt like stepping into a lion's den. But the opportunity to drive meaningful change was too important to ignore. After careful consideration, she agreed, on the condition that she would have full autonomy and the authority to challenge decisions without fear of reprisal. Her role as a consultant began with intense scrutiny of Tesla's safety protocols. She worked closely with engineers and leadership to identify weaknesses and implement improvements. It wasn't an easy transition. Some employees viewed her with suspicion, while others saw her as a reminder of their own failings. but Claire's unwavering commitment to her mission gradually earned their respect. Meanwhile, Elon remained heavily involved, ensuring that the reforms extended beyond technical fixes. He initiated company-wide training programs on ethics and accountability, emphasizing the importance of fostering a culture where concerns could be raised without fear of retaliation. Tesla's transparency became a cornerstone of its new identity, with regular updates to the public on their progress. The ripple effects of these changes extended beyond Tesla. Other companies, wary of similar scandals, began reevaluating their own practices. Industry leaders reached out to Claire for guidance, and regulatory bodies took note, proposing stricter safety standards for autonomous vehicles. What had started as a single whistleblower's fight had grown into a movement for systemic change. Despite the progress, Claire remained grounded. She knew that true transformation took time and that vigilance was necessary to prevent backsliding. But she also allowed herself moments of reflection, acknowledging how far she had come. What had once been a humiliating experience at a showroom had evolved into a journey of resilience, advocacy, and impact. As she sat in her new office, a modest space within Tesla's headquarters, Claire glanced at a framed quote on the wall. It read, "Change begins when one person decides to speak up." The words resonated deeply, a reminder of the power of individual action to inspire collective transformation. For Claire, the fight was far from over, but she was ready for whatever came next. As the reforms at Tesla gained momentum, Claire began to witness a shift not only within the company but also in how the public perceived her role in the story. What had started as an isolated incident of humiliation had grown into a broader narrative of accountability, resilience, and transformation. Yet, despite the progress, there were moments of tension and resistance that reminded her how fragile change could be. Tesla's commitment to transparency included a new initiative, public forums where customers, engineers, and safety experts could discuss concerns and improvements. Claire was invited to speak at the first event, and while she appreciated the gesture, she approached it with cautious optimism. The forum was a packed house, with journalists, critics, and loyalists eager to hear what she had to say. Taking the stage, Claire felt the weight of the room's expectations. She began by recounting her journey, not as a tale of triumph, but as a reminder of what could happen when voices went unheard. "This isn't about one flaw in one product," she said. "It's about a culture that values speed over precision, profit over safety, and image over accountability. That has to change, not just here, but everywhere." Her words resonated with many, but not all. After her speech, during the Q&A session, a man in the audience stood up and challenged her. "You're just one person," he said bluntly. "How can you claim to speak for an entire industry? How do we know you're not exaggerating your story for attention?" Claire met his gaze, her voice calm but firm. "I'm not speaking for the entire industry. I'm speaking for the people affected by its decisions, people who trust that the products they buy are safe. If my actions bring attention to these issues, then I'll gladly take that criticism. But this isn't about me. It's about creating a standard that doesn't compromise lives." The room erupted in applause, drowning out any further objections. Claire had learned to handle skepticism with grace, using it as an opportunity to reinforce her message rather than derail it. Meanwhile, within Tesla, the reforms were showing results. Engineers reported feeling more empowered to raise concerns without fear of retaliation. The new oversight committee Claire had advocated for was actively reviewing processes and issuing recommendations. Elon himself had become more vocal about the importance of ethical leadership, making it a cornerstone of his public appearances. But the journey wasn't without setbacks. During one review, Claire discovered another potential issue in a different model, unrelated to the braking system. When she brought it to the team, there was hesitation. Some saw it as an unnecessary distraction, while others worried about the optics of admitting to yet another flaw. It was a delicate situation, and Claire knew she had to tread carefully. She requested a meeting with Elon, knowing that his support would be crucial. When they spoke, she laid out the facts, emphasizing the potential risks and the importance of addressing them proactively. "If we ignore this, it undermines everything we've worked to rebuild," she said. "Trust is fragile, and it only takes one misstep to lose it." Elon listened, his expression thoughtful. "You're right," he said finally. "We fix it, and we do it now." The decision was another test of Tesla's commitment to change, and it paid off. By addressing the issue head-on, the company further solidified its reputation as a leader in transparency and innovation. The incident also strengthened Claire's resolve, proving that persistence could overcome even the most entrenched resistance. Outside Tesla, Claire's advocacy work continued to gain traction. She partnered with organizations pushing for legislation that would hold all automakers to higher safety standards. Her involvement wasn't just technical, it was deeply personal. She used her platform to share stories from consumers who had experienced safety failures firsthand, giving a voice to those who had been overlooked or silenced. One of the most impactful moments came during a congressional hearing on automotive safety. Claire was invited to testify, and she didn't hold back. She spoke about the systemic issues she had witnessed, the challenges of being a whistleblower, and the urgent need for industry-wide reform. Her testimony was raw, detailed, and impossible to ignore. After the hearing, a young woman approached her in the hallway. "I just wanted to thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "I lost my brother in an accident caused by a faulty safety system. What you're doing, it gives me hope that no one else has to go through that." The encounter stayed with Claire, a poignant reminder of why she had started this journey in the first place. It wasn't about recognition or revenge. It was about ensuring that no one else had to suffer because of preventable mistakes. As the months passed, Claire's role at Tesla evolved. She wasn't just a consultant anymore, she was a mentor, helping to guide the next generation of engineers and leaders. She focused on fostering a culture of curiosity, empathy, and accountability, knowing that real change started with the people who built the products. Her relationship with Elon also deepened, built on mutual respect and a shared commitment to improvement. While they didn't always agree, their debates were grounded in a common goal, making Tesla a company that not only innovated but inspired trust. By the end of the year, Tesla had not only resolved the safety flaws but had also set a new industry benchmark for transparency and ethics. Other companies followed suit, adopting similar practices to avoid falling behind. Claire's work had sparked a cultural shift, proving that one voice, no matter how small, could make a difference. And yet Claire remained humble. When asked about her achievements, she would often deflect, saying, "I just did what needed to be done." But those who knew her story understood that her impact went far beyond technical fixes. She had transformed an industry, challenged a culture, and reminded the world that courage and resilience could lead to extraordinary change. Claire's work had reshaped Tesla and ignited a movement, but as the dust began to settle, she found herself reflecting on the personal toll her journey had taken. For months she had been in the spotlight, navigating intense scrutiny, praise, and criticism. Now, she faced a new challenge, defining what came next. Her role at Tesla had evolved into one of mentorship and strategic influence. She spent her days collaborating with teams across departments, ensuring that the reforms were not just implemented but ingrained into the company's culture. Engineers regularly sought her advice, not just for technical guidance but for insights on how to advocate for their ideas in a system that sometimes resisted change. One day, a young engineer approached her after a meeting. "You've made such a huge difference here," he said. "But I've always wondered, why didn't you just give up when things got so hard?" Claire thought for a moment before answering. "Because giving up wasn't an option," she said simply. "It wasn't about me. It was about doing the right thing, even when it felt impossible." Her response resonated deeply with the team, and she noticed a ripple effect in their behavior. People began to speak up more in meetings, challenging assumptions and questioning decisions. It was a subtle but powerful shift, one that reinforced her belief in the importance of fostering a culture of accountability. Outside Tesla, Claire's advocacy work continued to expand. She became a key advisor to regulatory bodies, helping to shape policies that prioritized consumer safety and ethical innovation. Her influence extended beyond the automotive industry, as other tech companies sought her guidance on navigating the balance between growth and responsibility. At one such meeting, a prominent CEO asked her, "How do we ensure we don't repeat Tesla's mistakes?" Claire's answer was direct. "By creating systems that reward integrity over speed. By listening to the people on the ground who see the problems before they become crises. And by never letting the pursuit of success blind you to the consequences of failure." Her words became a mantra for many, and her reputation as a thought leader grew. She was invited to speak at global conferences, where her talks inspired audiences to rethink their approach to leadership and innovation. Yet, despite her rising profile, Claire remained grounded, always redirecting the focus to the collective effort rather than her individual achievements. One day, she received an email that caught her off guard. It was from a former Tesla colleague, someone who had been part of the group that had dismissed her concerns in the early days. The message was brief but heartfelt. "I owe you an apology. I didn't see it then, but you were right, and we were wrong. Thank you for not giving up." The email brought a surge of mixed emotions. Forgiveness had always been part of her journey, but seeing it expressed so openly felt like a personal victory. It reminded her that change wasn't just about systems and policies. It was about people evolving, learning from their mistakes, and growing together. As Tesla continued to thrive under its new ethos, Claire began to think about her legacy. She knew her impact at the company was significant, but she also felt a pull to broaden her reach. She started working on a book, weaving her story into a larger narrative about resilience, leadership, and the power of advocacy. The process was both cathartic and challenging, forcing her to revisit moments of pain and triumph with equal honesty. The book, titled Breaking the Silence, A Journey of Accountability and Change, became an instant bestseller. Readers from all walks of life connected with her message, finding inspiration in her determination to stand up against the odds. The success of the book opened new doors, including opportunities to collaborate with educational institutions and nonprofit organizations focused on empowering individuals to create change in their communities. Through it all, Claire never lost sight of the people who had supported her along the way. She maintained close relationships with the advocacy groups that had amplified her voice and continued to mentor young professionals who aspired to make a difference in their fields. Her story became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming challenges, one person's courage could spark a ripple effect of transformation. Years later, as Claire looked back on her journey, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The Tesla showroom incident that had once left her humiliated and defeated had become the catalyst for a movement that transcended industries and borders. What began as a fight for safety had grown into a testament to the power of resilience, empathy, and collaboration. In a quiet moment of reflection, Claire wrote a note to herself, a reminder of the lesson that had guided her through every obstacle. "Change isn't easy, but it's always worth fighting for. The impact may not always be immediate, but the ripples you create will reach farther than you ever imagined." And with that, she closed her notebook, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring, knowing that her journey was far from over.